And we're recording. Okay, great. Welcome back to Midnight Sports. I'm Laya, and
I'm Franklin.
yeah. Um, so we're recording this right after the first day of the Elite Eight. So I think it's just apropos right now to just talk about our thoughts on the weekend so far and the games that we've seen. It's been wild. It's been wild, man. A lot of blowouts,
Oh
but
yeah,
some notable games. Yeah. Um,
for sure. Where do we even
or
start? It's been a crazy weekend.
I
Gotta say
I
the least.
feel yeah, I know. It feels weird because we like do how in depth should we go on like Sweet 16 games because we just saw some of these Elite Eight games, right? That kind of nullify some of like the key detailed points. But I guess we could talk generally about like the Elite Eight teams and what happened. I guess we could start with the first game today, like Oregon State, Houston. Yeah, Houston
Oh.
make it to the Final Four. Um, so yeah, clearly we were both wrong on that region. Um,
We were as far as correct, basically as can be. But all
oh my goodness, that
right,
that
so good.
that I mean, this is the thing with college basketball. Anything can happen. This is why it's amazing. Um, so I guess let's for that first, you know, in that Oregon State Houston game. Oregon State got here. Now, Oregon State got here by playing basically amazing perimeter defense. And I was just watching that Loyola Chicago game and the way they beat them. And Loyola Chicago clearly wasn't just making shots, like they were wide open. They weren't making shots and they weren't making free throws. But I mean, that defense for Oregon State was phenomenal. And that's how they got here. But you have a phenomenal Oregon State defense. You have phenomenal Houston defense, and this is the game we got. So, what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts?
Well, I just thought, for let's just say this. First of all, just props to Oregon State for the path they've taken. Not an easy path by any means. If you look at how far they've gone, all the way to the Elite Eight, that journey, I thought they were almost an afterthought, after sneaking in, quote by quote, by winning the Pac-12 championship. But what they've done in terms of just being impressively good on their defense, and then also just being reliable on their offense for many games now. You saw they took care of Tennessee. That was something that was, I kind of predicted, but it was just like, kind of on a hunch. But then you got like Oklahoma State, where it's like, wow, they defense started showing up, and offense carried them to that 10-point victory. And then especially against Loyola Chicago, that game was just unbelievably well executed and well done by them. It's just not too many words can be said in terms of like how well they've done. It's just like I'm at a loss for words for how shocked Oregon State has done in this tournament. So good for them.
Yeah, um, that Thompson kid. I shouldn't say kid. I feel like he's older than me, but that Thompson, he's a good player, man. And I think they found on defense the way they played an amazing zone. And that's the thing. My prediction was that Loyola Chicago would match up well with Syracuse, hypothetically, because I thought Cameron Court would be able to do well against the zone. And clearly it just didn't work out. Like
Nope.
this defense has been pretty good, been very good throughout this run, playing great perimeter defense. And uh, just whenever I watch them, it's just kind of shocking how they can claw back, they can claw in games, and always keep it somewhat competitive, and hang with these quote unquote big boys. So that's the path that Oregon State took, and Loyola Chicago that game. that was rough for Loyal Chicago, man.
It was.
Like,
Do you think like Loyola Chicago might have slightly overlooked Oregon State in that game? I mean, as like any opponent would, but could
I
there
don't
have?
think so because I have notes from like that Loyal Chicago game,
Yeah,
and all I could think about was they are missing wide open shots. Like they're just missing them. Like
right.
Loyola Chicago's defense was still like decent and good. Like they still held how many points was it specifically? They still held okay. Well, it wasn't really seven. Was it? It was 65 points, but like it felt like less because by that point it's like the foul game was happening, like the free throw end of game. But they still were good on defense. It was just Loyal Chicago was just terrible on offense. And then that's also credit to Oregon State for neutralizing Cameron Quetroy for near the end, and you know
Right.
Williamson was in foul. I think that's Williamson, right? Luke, he was in foul trouble. Their other is it Ugak or whoever was in foul trouble. So their best defenders, you know, they got in foul trouble early, and it kind of sucked. But so yeah,
Yeah, I think foul trouble is it's a big thing. It affected a lot of games actually. So that's like gotta always be careful. In college, it's like once you foul out, it just becomes so difficult because like in college basketball, it's like these few players, right, that you really depend on, and if you aren't on the court and able to contribute to your team, it becomes really difficult to win. So, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, of course. So we got Oregon State, and then you know the winners, Houston.
Yeah,
I was not able to. Well, I think you were able to watch a little more of Houston than I was during this tournament. But yeah, Houston made a pretty cool run too.
yeah,
You know, they kind of creamed Cleveland State. They not kind of they creamed Cleveland State.
it, yeah,
Rutgers, that was the miracle. I didn't get to watch because I was too busy watching Syracuse, West Virginia. Um, and that brings us to that Sweet 16 game, Houston and Syracuse, man. And
yeah. I Well, I watched a little bit of that game, but I think what we said last time was pretty correct in terms of just how Houston has a defense built to kind of like limit the three, and they did well in terms of just limiting looks from Buddy Boeheim and just making sure that he was well covered. And I mean, once you unlock that game plan, the rest of it is just going forward and executing yourself on offense, which they did pretty well. So they solved Syracuse in that zone too, I'd say.
yeah, Syracuse had 46 points. That is so low. It's unbelievable.
Did you see the
I was
halftime score? It was like really low or something.
it was well, same in this game. Oregon State at 17 points,
Exactly.
and a
Yeah.
half.
That's
Like
true.
Houston's just so good defensively. I just, you just gotta, you know,
Right.
we'll go on to another team that I was high on defensively. But you know, Houston is so good defensively. I think you just have to take it at face value and don't overthink it. And don't be like, well, Buddy Boeheim's been on this run, so this was the Steph Curry, Carson Edwards. Nope, it wasn't. Houston's just too good for that. And
Right.
they somewhat figured out Syracuse's zone. I mean, 62 points doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, they were. I guess they got a lot of easy baskets from what I remembered. Like they forced a lot of turnovers and just steals and points off turnovers. So it looked like a bloodbath. It did look pretty bad.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad. I'd agree.
So that leads us to this Elite Eight game, man. Uh, the first Elite game, 8A game, Houston, Oregon State, and I guess tell me your thoughts on it, man. What are your takeaways?
Quick thoughts would just be that Houston, I think, played relatively well again. It was a much closer game. than what they play against Syracuse. And I just thought Houston. I remember there's a stat that you'll have to bring up later about like Houston being a team that's shooting under like 40%, but still making this run all the way to the Final Four. It's just they've been relying on their defense, and it's been showing. And they've done a really good job. So they are dangerous to any opponent, I'd say.
I mean, not just that, but you can see that the offensive rebound is like their biggest deciding factor. If they can get offensive rebounds, they'll beat you. If they don't, then they're kind of in a rut. So
Right.
full disclosure for this game, man. Once it opened up to a huge lead, I was just putting this game in the back burner, kind of like it is what it is. And I was, doing some work and just kind of like just chilling out. And then I
Right.
look up and then I see that like that Oregon State's been able to pull it back.
Yeah.
And I see it's because, according to the commentators, at least when I finally paid attention, it was because they're getting offensive rebounds. And that's the whole thing with this team. So this team, again, there's this YouTube channel, Hoop Vision 68. They do a great job at covering a lot of these college basketball teams and their schemes and how they play on offense and defense and what attributes happening in the X's and O's. And so Houston, using that information, Houston is a pretty bad shooting team. They are, if I have the stat correctly, they're at 200 plus. Let me get this stat out. They are, let's see. This is an amazing stat. All right, they're 204th in 2-point percentage, field goal percentage, and they're 112th in 3-point field goal percentage, which is bad.
Yeah, that's bad.
Which is quite bad. Which is why I am relatively low on this team, is because no matter how good you are offensive rebounding, like at some point you're going to face a team that is going to neutralize that. You can't get your offensive rebounds. Clearly, that was not today. Clearly, that was not today. They out rebound. I think they had 19 plus, maybe 20 plus offensive rebounds alone, which is an insane number when you think about it. And that's how they were able to, for the most part, just, win this game kind of solidly. I mean, yes, Oregon State went on that run to tie it like 55, I believe. Yeah, 55, 55. But then after that, they got in the gear. I don't think Oregon State ever led in this game. So
Yeah.
it's something. It's their defense and their that hustle and that whole team, like Dejan Giroux, Grimes was hitting threes, and if Grimes, if he stays somewhat consistent in that case, I don't care how the overall team is. At least you have one shooter, and then
Exactly.
you're able to space the floor. I think this is a team that could go, that could do well. Seeing this in person, seeing this more, this Houston team as it's gotten better. It's kind of it's solid. It's solid for sure.
Yeah, I think if we do make any thoughts or remarks on Final Four, Houston, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good game. I think as this season is, anything could happen. Don't count out Houston in any game because of what they bring to the table. So,
of course, and Ken Palm was always relatively high on their offensive efficiency too, even if they weren't that great at shooting the ball, which I think is a product of them getting so many offensive rebounds and able to put backs, and they never really go. I shouldn't say never, but don't often come away without getting a bucket in like a possession. So
right.
We'll see how this holds up. Congratulations to Houston. Um,
Big congratulations. It's awesome that they made Final Four. So yeah.
and so the next Elite Eight game, and I guess we can track paths. That's what kind of the format we've been doing. So we got Baylor coming from that top and down, and then you got Arkansas coming from the other way around, bottom up,
Yep.
and
Yep.
yeah, Baylor's been on this dominant run. This is pre-COVID Baylor, man. This is pre-COVID Baylor against Villanova. What even when they couldn't shoot threes, that defense was pre-COVID Baylor defense, and you could Ken Palm again. They were like in 30s, whatever. They're up to 28. I think they're like slow to adjust. This is back to like the OG Baylor defense. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not as good as last year, but it's still a good. It's still like as good as this year's defense was, pre-COVID. And yeah, I don't know what to say with Villanova other than they were just so good at adjusting in that game that the threes weren't going in for them. Butler's been having, not as hot of a tournament as you'd like to see. But they were just able to just dominate with the paint. There were so many, I shouldn't say Euro, but just spin move layups and just drive bys. And I felt it was just rough for Villanova, and they just, I should say, collapsed in the second half. That was more of a problem, just Baylor's defense just locking them up in the second half, and they couldn't really do anything.
Right.
But yeah, thoughts on Baylor Nova in that case, because
Right. Absolutely. I think when you look at just like overall numbers wise, both teams didn't do that well from three. Villanova was 17.6%. So, it's pretty bad. But, surprisingly, Baylor was even worse at 15.8%. In some ways, it was almost that Baylor decided that, hey, we're not having a good day on three. We're just going to decide to, lock it down on paint and then just do that way, go the other way, and, have it the hard grind to the basket and make shots there. And I just think Baylor overall, when you're looking at them, it's that, they've been a solid team all year long. We've been saying during the middle year, it's like, oh, it's easily going to be Baylor Gonzaga in the final. And then, things were a little bit tipped off course when we had those two upsets when you had Kansas and then Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament. And I was like, hold the brakes, pump the brakes. It might not be Baylor. They might, people had them on like upset alert round 2 against like potentially like North Carolina or Wisconsin. But reality set in. And as we see today, they are exactly as advertised. They are elite, both offensively, and their defense has been great too. So
yeah,
I think Baylor's rounding into form at the perfect time. So good for them.
yeah. I mean, I I have a friend from Baylor who goes to Baylor,
Yeah.
and it was a bummer because this team was doing so well at the they were on this historic I shouldn't say historic, but they were going undefeated. It was possible they could be undefeated in the Big 12, and
Yeah.
it was at the point where it was a 50-50 shot they would be undefeated in the Big 12. They were definitely better than every team. It was a matter of, is there a fluke night or not?
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, and it sucked because you saw defense going down in Ken Palm. Not just in Kemp, but you could see it on the court. You could see the way Oklahoma State just sometimes they just outpaced them. Kay Cunningham was able to just pass it to big guys and just kind of dissect that defense. And you saw Kansas just, thoroughly beat them the second time around. And so I think as a public, or at least with the public that we know,
Yeah.
it kind of faded out. We kind of faded them, and Illinois became the second best team.
That's a mistake. That was a mistake.
It just happened like that.
Right.
And I think this is clearly Baylor just needed time to adjust, and they've adjusted it, I think. Looking at how they played today, not just today, but against Nova especially, and throughout, this is a solid team. They're through, you know, I don't have. Let me get the stats in front of me.
Yeah.
I know Butler's been rough, um, but if Butler can get back to just his normal form, this is, we're going to get Gonzaga Baylor as advertised at the very beginning of the year.
Exactly.
So we'll see.
I was gonna say, one of the things that I found, I think it is a trend, is that COVID teams coming off like COVID kind of cases and all that, is that their defense becomes more of a kind of a hole that they're kind of lacking once they come back.
Exactly. Yeah.
When you look at teams like we talked about Baylor, they kind of like lagged on a little bit of D, which led to their like 2 losses there. Look at another prime example. It's like Kansas. When Kansas played in the tournament this year, they also had a little bit of that COVID problem. And though they handled Drake against USC, not to discount anything that USC has done, Kansas defense was kind of lacking there too. There was a little bit of kind of a step back there. And then finally, Virginia, again, it's like it's a Ohio played really well, but then again, Virginia, you could argue in some ways as well that their defense wasn't at the peak level that they are at usually. So
I guess you could say that.
I guess it's that one's a little bit tough to say. Yeah.
For Virginia, Ohio, that was a lot of offense for us too. I felt like on Virginia, but that's a different. They were just missing shots that were somewhat wide open at times. But then that brings us to Arkansas and the run they've gone on. And wow,
Yeah.
what this team just so streaky, man. It's so fun to watch them throughout this tournament.
Yeah.
They just get down, and like I remember Colgate. The beginning of this whole tournament feels like a while ago for some reason. No, against Colgate, and I was petrified. And then because I had Arkansas going fairly far, and I was Colgate is going to beat Arkansas, and then. And then they just come back. They just find a way to come back. Same thing with Texas Tech. There's something about Justin Smith's, but great offensive rebounder. Of course, Moody, Tate's been a good guard.
Absolutely.
They have a solid rotation. So that brings us to the game before this one.
Yeah.
Oral Roberts.
Oh, wow. What can I say? I mean, if A. Smith makes that 3 right there at the end of the game, that'd have been crazy. It'd have been Oral Roberts in the Elite 8 versus Baylor. That'd have been some kind of thing. But
See,
Arkansas. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I was gonna dive a little bit quickly deeper into Arkansas. I think one of the things I would say is that I personally kind of didn't respect the pedigree of the SEC this year for college basketball. And when I initially saw the bracket, I was always drawn to the Big Ten team, like Ohio State, right? That was the team I was immediately drawn to. But Arkansas, as said by KenPom this year, they've been a very solid team, just overall top to bottom. Plays great defense. Offense is better than average, and they're coached by Eric Musselman, of course, the man, the myth, the legend. But Arkansas finds a way to fly under the radar, to say with better words, and then they've done really well in terms of just second half. I think second half pushes, they've done like great on that, and that's what kind of like makes difference in a lot of these college games. And the one against Oral Roberts, and I could say the one against Texas Tech, both of those games they got kind of lucky. The Texas Tech game and the Oral Roberts game, they both got kind of lucky. But luck is part of March Madness, and they decided to move on. So great job for Arkansas. They've done very well. And yeah, what's your thoughts on this?
So what I was gonna say is, for as wrong as we were in this in the Midwest, we had the South kind
Yeah,
of down pat, I should say, not down pat.
yeah,
Baylor, solidly beat Villanova. Arkansas, I said it was going to be a close. We said we were going to be a close game with Oral Roberts, but might pull off the win. That's different. And then Baylor was going to beat Arkansas, but not by extremely comfortable margins. But it would be a solid win, I thought, and that's what happened. But to go back to Arkansas Oral Roberts,
yeah.
that game was wild. They basically decided to just let Asmus and company just run free, and they said, "We're gonna stop you, O'Banner." O'Banner's not going to be able to pop. They basically overhelped and to try and take away O'Banner, and I don't know it. I think Oral Roberts should have won that game.
I think so
When
too.
I think about that game, Smith played out of his mind. The bench, role players showed up. They started hitting threes at the beginning of the game, and it's like Arkansas didn't necessarily have an answer at the beginning. It was just when it came to the second half, they just became a better rebounding team. They just started getting their rebounds, and Justin Smith took over on the glass, it felt like, or not just him, but others as well.
Right.
And it just sucked because as I was watching a game, all I could think of was there were these quote unquote, like, these easy shots that
Yeah,
Oral Roberts could have made, and the rims just shrunk and or something. It sucked.
I totally agree with that. I think one of the funny things is also that I saw during the game that Oral Roberts and Arkansas, they actually played in the season this year. So it wasn't their first time meeting each other. And first meeting Arkansas, I think beat them pretty handily. But this
Oral
game,
Roberts was up at the half though. That
they
game.
were up at the half. Exactly. So as of this game too. So it's just like it shows you that like Oral Roberts, they said they're came out for a revenge game, and they played as well as they could. It's just that somehow like their buckets weren't just weren't falling, and even with that poor shooting night, they were only 2 points away, and the last shot, one game shot that clunked out of the basket away from winning that game against Arkansas. So
Well, I shouldn't say poor shooting night, because they still shot fairly well, especially at the first half.
okay,
It
sure.
it was just more down when it was coming down the stretch. There were these shots that I don't have the notes down, like which specific shots. Wish I remember, but it's been a busy weekend, man. It's been a busy weekend. But there were I was just watching. I was like, man, some of these shots y'all could have made. Um, it was O'Banner three. There was like O'Banner wide open three near the end that he just missed. Um, I think there was an ace, of course, the Gordon Hayward esque miss,
Yeah,
the buzzer.
right.
Um,
Heartbreaking, honestly.
Heartbreaking, but
Yeah.
yeah. But that leads us to this, the game we just finished watching,
Hmm.
Baylor, Arkansas, and I don't
Well,
care that Arkansas got close. Baylor was in full control the whole time.
Absolutely. I believe so. Yeah. It's like I think one of the things that played into this a little bit wouldn't be, not taking anything away from what Baylor did was that Arkansas's, I think it was Justin Smith, if I'm right. He fouled out pretty early.
No, it was Note. It
No,
was
sorry.
it was Note,
Okay.
not Justin Smith.
No.
It was their it's their best bench player. He's
So
fouled out.
right, exactly. He had 14 points, right? And it was just the beginning of the second half and he fouled out. And I think that kind of hurt Arkansas a little bit. Like when you have like those solid rotation players that aren't able to play for what the last like 14 minutes of the game, that really hurt them. But even then, they kind of like mounted a little bit of a comeback, made the game kind of close, and then Baylor started pulling away afterwards. So, I think it just shows you again, Arkansas always plays like relatively good D, but when you match up against like a really elite opponent like Baylor, that as we've seen through the entire season, how good they actually are, and they have that championship medal, that it's difficult to beat them, and they will eventually kind of like beat you on like all facets of the game, which what happened basically down the stretch.
I mean, you could just tell from how the game started that, and the fact that Baylor was up 18 at one point.
They were, yeah.
Like Mayer was Matthew Mayer was just hitting threes, and he was so confident. Like this whole team was just flowing, and like all Arkansas only had like 2 points, and I forget how many points Baylor had, and there was a timeout. I remember at least being like 17-2, if I'm not mistaken. Like that kind of already tells you how the game was going to play out in a way. And yes, Arkansas brought it close, but Baylor held that back. Whenever it was too close, Arkansas was going on these runs. Maceo Teague, just drew a foul, hit some free throws, and then it was back to Baylor going back and forth with Arkansas. I just never, even though it was a close game, and you could hear the commentators say, "Oh, this is a great game," and it was. If you just look at the score, the difference.
Right.
But the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, Baylor's winning. Like, I did not, from the jump, I did not really see a chance for Arkansas to come back. Similar to Houston, Oregon State, except Oregon State actually tied it, which made it quite interesting.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I say so. Right.
But it's a similar thing where, yes, the box score or the scoreboard might tell you, "Oh, this is a great game." It's single digit differences at times. It didn't feel like that to me.
No, it didn't. Yeah.
It did not. I just ended up just reading some of my classwork and all of that, instead of,
Yeah. I mean, we predicted that South region was going to be Baylor's, and turned out to be without too much difficulty. I don't think there wasn't really a team that gave them that much of a scare. So
nope.
Yeah.
And
there we
are. I feel like we'll preview. What's it called? My gosh, Baylor Houston. We'll preview Baylor Houston later.
Sure.
Because we don't know what the Final Four matchups are going to be from the West and the East, which brings me to the Sweet 16 games, and I guess the paths that Gonzaga and USC took.
Okay.
So I'll just say this. There's this similar to KenPom, there's this site Bart Torvik that does similar efficiency calculations and metrics and all that jazz. And from the beginning of this tournament, the two most efficient teams are Gonzaga and USC overall.
Huh.
Which is fair to say because there has not been a single close game that both of these teams have been in.
Right.
They've blown people out of just of the water. It's unbelievable. See, I shouldn't say unbelievable. It is believable for Gonzaga at least, but for USC, the amount of domination they had over Kansas and over Oregon.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. That's the best way to say that for sure. I would say USC they're overlooked because, like on the West Coast, not a lot of the nation gets to see their games, and like the big names out on the West is Gonzaga, and then you got like Oregon sometimes, but Pac-12's been overlooked pretty hard actually. And you got how many Pac-12 teams still in the tournament? You got, I mean, as of now, you have two, but you had Oregon State as well, so you had three Pac-12 teams with Oregon. So that was four Pac-12 teams: USC, Oregon, Oregon State, and UCLA in the Sweet 16. So that was some really great representation. And we have to remind everyone that though USC isn't like the people like overlook them. Evan Mobley, one of their star players, he is a projected top 3 NBA lottery draft pick. So the guy's a stud. The guy's an absolute stud, and he might be pushing for something higher than number 3 at this point because he's been playing good, and the rest of the team's been playing amazing as well. Yeah, let's dive into that one. Oregon versus USC. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll just say this about USC. This is the funny thing. So we talked about before, what is it with, a Big Ten team is close with another Big Ten team? Oh, it's a good game. And then I remember near the end of the year, it was a kind of important game. It was USC, UCLA. And it was super close, and USC won by 2. If I think it was 72-70. Yeah, and you guys can go check me on that. It was a close game, and that was more of a sign of, the Pac-12 is just, they're all mediocre, or they're all, UCLA hasn't been great. USC sure has been one of the better teams in the Pac-12. We'll see. That was the narrative. And look here, maybe that was the Michigan Ohio State of the Pac-12, but that should have been taken more seriously maybe than the Michigan Ohio State game, or Michigan State, Ohio State, all these Big Ten matchups that keep Iowa, Ohio State, or all that. Maybe this was what we should have been looking at, because both of these teams are in the Elite Eight, and both have been very good. We'll talk about UCLA later, but with USC, it's not just the fact that Evan Mobley's projected lottery pick. Anthony Edwards was a projected lottery. He became a lottery pick. Yeah. Wiseman, all these guys, but it's the fact that Mobley's actually showing incredible amounts of production, and he's the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. He's just the best player in the conference, and
sound.
I think Cade Cunningham is great. I think we overhype. I shouldn't say we overhype Cade Cunningham, but we downplay Evan Mobley because, Cade Cunningham's doing all of this, and it's the Big 12 is a better conference. And right. Well, pay attention. We don't pay attention because the West Coast Pac-12 network, it's not even available on DirecTV. It's
notorious.
It's rough. It's rough. So, yeah, USC. This was not just was Taj Ide. There's this other kid on USC that's doing really well. It's not just the Mobley brothers. It's that whole team is firing on all cylinders. And I mean, that USC Oregon game was just wasn't even being called into question. That I just zoned out. Sorry, man. I got stuff to do, man. I got
Right.
I got stuff to do. So already the game before that, I spent the whole time watching that game. But
Right. No,
oh
absolutely. I'd say USC, just to catch you up, when they played UCLA back in, what day was that? That was March 6th.
yeah,
So in the tournament, USC won by 1 point,
1
64
point, not
3.
okay. So it wasn't
Yeah.
2 points. I thought there was a yeah.
So it's
Wasn't there a game played on the same? I think it was played on the same day as Duke UNC.
February
UC
6th, I think.
no, that I meant like near the. You know how Duke UNC they play it on the last Saturday of because they're rivals. It's like
Yeah.
similar with like USC UCLA. I thought they played a regular season game like last.
Gotcha. Okay. That might have been that
Is that
might be
64 62? I'm getting
64.
my
Their only other matchup was a February 6th matchup, which USC won 66-48. But no, just saying, like, it's ironic, but if things go their way, you could be potentially seeing a rematch in the Final Four. It's
whoa,
like,
whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's pause. Well, we got to talk about now. Gonzaga UCLA. We've kind of already talked about that.
yeah,
It's gonna be a great game. No matter, I think this might be blasphemous to say right now. Whoever wins that, not blasphemous. Why am I using Stephen A. Smith type words right now? Um, it might be a little crazy. I'll say that. It might be a little crazy to say this, but whoever wins this Elite Eight game is going to the championship game.
well, I could take it a step far. I was going to say this could be your potential champion, whoever wins this game.
Whoa! I mean, don't discount Baylor or Houston.
Don't discount Baylor, of course, but I mean,
yeah. I just think so.
I mean,
I just think that when compared to Michigan, UCLA, they're just much stronger. And I guess we should talk about, Michigan, UCLA.
of course.
I feel like we've kind of already covered Gonzaga previous. You can name players. Just whatever I said before still holds true. Damn it, they're good. USC just again, they're two most efficient. Anyways, case closed on that game. That game's going to be absolutely amazing. It's awesome. I'm going to be glued to it. I'm looking forward to it. So Michigan, UCLA. I guess we had to talk about Michigan, Florida State, and
Alabama, UCLA. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's do Alabama, UCLA because I have so many thoughts, man. I can go on and on about this game. I absolutely love this game.
Wow.
I'll let you get in your words edgewise because I'm going to just go ranting on and on and on.
All right. Yeah, I'll try to be quick, but this game was just like insane because I mean, like UCLA, like I had a friend, his brother went to UCLA, and he now plays baseball for the Rockies. But it was just like he was talking, and it's like, wow, like UCLA was a team that like had to play a game to play into the tournament, so they weren't technically even in the tournament, like guaranteed wise. And look where they are, Elite Eight. This game against Alabama, it was just like one of the like best all-around games by all their players. Like of course, like during this run, we've all heard of the name Johnny Juzang. Like he's been like doing well for UCLA. Guy fouled out like second half. Still with a good amount of minutes left in that game. So he fouled out, and he was just watching from the bench as UCLA just continued to like go at Alabama's defense, tear them apart. It's just like just kind of crazy because they did well both, I think, inside and did relatively well outside at the three. And it took a miracle shot from Alabama to extend into overtime. And once it got into overtime, things just happened. It really UCLA just kind of pulled away from there. But looking on Alabama's side, though, I would just say, I don't know. I think when you say like Alabama's a good 3-and-D team, I don't think their 3 side showed up that well. It was not as good as your usual Alabama performance, I would say there. And somehow they really had a good matchup with UCLA in terms of how their two plays contrast with each other. I think UCLA their offense matched up pretty well with Alabama's defense. So what a perfect storm! But then again, full credit to what UCLA has done so far in this tournament.
Yeah. So
let's hear it.
I am a huge Alabama fan as far as how they play.
Yeah.
We were talking about how well UCLA hasn't seen anything like this, or Alabama's their defense is going to clamp them down. UCLA hasn't really played. They've only played. Well, BYU was on a double-digit seed team, but they haven't played really strict competition.
No.
And all of that. This game was just so entertaining. The way it went back and forth. The runs, there were just runs on just uninterrupted runs from each team. It wasn't like going back and forth. It was like this team goes on a run, then this team goes on a run, then this team goes on a run. It was wild in that sense. And then near the end, it kind of, in a way, it went back and forth.
Right. In a way, but yeah.
So, I'm just trying to think of. There's so many things I want to say. I'm trying to compartmentalize this. So the game itself.
Yeah,
you're right. I have it here. Alabama shot 25% from 3-point, which is not the best. But I think clearly we know the other stat that's the more important, which is the 40% from free throws.
Now that's
Alabama is a 75% free throw shooting team usually.
Yeah.
And it just if 40%, and it wasn't like they took a few amount of free throws. They took 25, so it's 44%. They took 25 free throws. So you just improve that number from 44% to 75%. You'll get there. You'll get a solid.
You'd probably win the game, right, in regulation.
Yeah, you win the game in regulation, and
look
on top of that,
mm-hmm.
I think UCLA played really well. UCLA definitely played really well. With their Riley was amazing. Like, he was quite good in the paint, although Quinterly, here's what I'll say, I guess. So their best player, Herb Jones, was tragic. It was tragically bad on offense, at least in regulation. And even with that, and even with their free throws being so bad, there was a reason they stayed in this game, and it was that John Petty was able to keep them in it. Quinterly was able to keep them in it offensively. The bench points was amazing. And the way Quinterly was able to facilitate coming off the bench, those bench points really helped them keep in it. And this is why, things were going so badly for Alabama. Not so bad, but quite badly. Very bad luck. And there's a reason this was able to go to overtime with how good UCLA was playing. That's because Alabama is a really, really good team. Their defense could cover up for all these flaws, even though, and it's but UCLA with Tiger Campbell, Bernard, Jaquez, I can list all those guys. They all played. They played well. They played really well. And that Riley, guy, just, oh my,
his defense.
His defense was great. And there's reason Herb Jones was, just not good this game, even though he's their best player. It's at least on a scoring basis, Herb Jones wasn't there today, or not today, yesterday.
I mean, you saw Herb Jones at the very end. He missed both of his free throws. Those two needed like crucial free throws at the end, and like just another stat. Both teams actually attempted the same amount of free throws, 25.
Mm-hmm.
One team shot 44%, Alabama. The other team, UCLA, shot 80%. Shows you how much it makes a difference there.
That's the difference. That's the difference right there. And I felt bad for Nate Oates at the end because he was just free throws are mainly all mental because it's the same stroke. It's and it just sucks that this just happened.
Right.
The team played well otherwise. And I just think now on the UCLA side, my immediate reaction, because I'm an Alabama, I root for Alabama, I like the way they play, was like, crap, I kind of jinxed this team by telling people the fact that they're able to go to overtime is a testament to how good Alabama is. And I was like, oh shoot, I jinxed this, didn't I? And I might have, who knows? But what UCLA's been able to do, I think should be really admired. So Chris Smith, coming into the year, was supposed to be their best player. He got injured. There's supposed to be another good player for them, and he had to leave for some. I think it was just a leave of absence for. I forgot what it was for. It was like mental. It was mental health, or he just stepped away from the team.
Right.
And so Johnny Juzang, yes, he's a former Kentucky. He's a Kentucky transfer. Comes in. He's their third best player from that slot of people, but he becomes their best player. And you have this group of people. And during this game, Johnny Juzang even fouls out.
He fouls out. Yeah.
And they still are able to win. And they're able to go on this run as well. Again, those teams haven't been the best. But in this game, let's say, Jaquez stepped up. Jaquez really stepped up at the end. Like in overtime, oh my gosh, I was enjoying the game, but in the back I was, rooting for my bracket, and still, I was like, Alabama can pull this off, right? Nah, man.
Right.
So overall, I gotta say, Alabama played a good game. It was just so unlucky. You might say, well, they got lucky with that Alex Reese shot, right? And yeah, they did for sure. But
right
before that, it was so unlucky. Missing free throws that they usually make. And it wasn't just at the end of crunch time. It was just even in the beginning of the game, they were just missing just free throws. And I mean, credit to Quinterly for helping them stay in this game offensively.
Absolutely.
And I mean, credit to just Jaquez and Juice, like all those guys. Bernard? Just they're just shooting threes on them, and
David Singleton off the bench, 15 points. I mean, that's big too. Absolutely.
So yeah. Let me make sure I gotta pull up the stats. So yeah, I mean, they shot better from three, like we talked about. They shot 34.5%. UCLA did, and Alabama only did 25, which is much less than their usual. Usual's around
D team. They right.
But the thing was with the 3 and D team, like, yes, you have cold shooting nights, but your D is supposed to help you stick in it. And
right.
It somewhat did for the most part. And this is also a crazy thing. UCLA scored more points in overtime than they did in the second half.
They just pulled away in overtime. I mean, I watched it for like a few minutes, and they just like instantly had that like 7-point lead, and then just started pulling away. And it's like, yeah, there's probably no way you could do anything about that at that point. So
No, I take that back. I'm so bad. They scored 25 points in the second half, and they scored 23 points in overtime. That's
yeah,
still
so
ridiculous.
that's still ridiculous. In the amount of time. Overtime is what, 10 minutes?
10 minutes, right? Yeah, 10
Yeah,
minutes.
and a half is 15.
Half is 20.
20.
Yeah. So half
They
is 20.
did half the time, but they basically scored as much as they did in the second half.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking at. I mean, all without Johnny Juzang again, without their best, I guess their best player this season.
So I guess we got that covered. So Michigan, Florida State, that was just.
I didn't watch as much as I wanted to this game, I'll be honest, but from what I saw, Hunter Dickinson, I think that was the X factor there. Because I think he really messed up what Florida State's plan was in terms of just to defend against Michigan. I think Hunter Dickinson did a great job just to take that, really just kind of destroy what Florida State's plan was there, and Michigan just had a very free flowing offense at that point. So
Here's this is the thing. Hunter Dickinson is Michigan's best player now. That
Isaiah Livers is gone. You're right.
Yes. But Florida State has one of the best interior defenses in the country.
Yeah.
That's their length. They have a good interior defense. This is also another reason I was like, oh, Florida State's going to beat Michigan. The exact opposite happens.
They didn't show up. They just didn't show up.
Michigan's paint offense was incredible. Yeah, oh my gosh. It basically exactly the opposite of what was supposed to happen happened. That summarized the game. Wagner played amazing. And of course Dickinson, whole offense in the paint. And you're thinking, but Florida State is a good defensive team in the paint. That's their whole point of having so much length and size and all that. So that was confusing as it was playing out. I was confused as to why this was happening, but it happened, and I guess here we are.
Florida State, I think, they almost kind of ran out of options. They played a lot of players. They were trying to
Also, I noticed again, I also was kind of fading in and out because
that makes sense.
Sorry, we got stuff to do. We can't. We're not getting paid to do this, man. So we got stuff to do. So I was kind of in the back burner, but I would look up from time to time, and players would just get injured for Florida State.
They did, yeah. It's just
players would get injured. Was it MJ Walker, Scotty Barnes at the beginning, but he came back in. But MJ Walker, he twisted his ankle. That was rough, and they're just getting beat up. And you thought they would be the ones delivering the blows.
The highest scoring guy on their team was 12 points. MJ Walker was their second highest scoring player, and he left with an injury. So after that, it's just wow.
It was domination, man. It was dominant. Now, UCLA, Michigan, because we didn't talk about this in the previous episode because we thought that it was going to be Florida State, Alabama, but I can't decide, man. I can't pick. I know the betting lines are way in favor of
Michigan, I would guess.
Actually, it's gone down. Wow, it's gone down. I think it was 7. Now it's 6.5. And Gonzaga was favored by 9. Now it's 8.5. So that's interesting. So it's gone down towards so the underdog's getting money right now. But I don't know. I can't decide. I am inclined to say Michigan, but
oh man. It's really hard to say. From what I saw from UCLA against Alabama, how they had a really complete team effort. That's the way that you can beat really good teams, i.e. Michigan. And Um, I don't know if we'll see that again, but for some reason I just feel like their team's clicking at the right time. So if I I'm not definitely not betting money on this because that's not a good idea
No,
at
no,
this
no,
stage.
no.
But if I was just picking, I would probably pick UCLA. But
Yeah. Here's the thing about Michigan too. This is another thing. So Michigan, after they lose Isaiah Livers, is pretty shaky in the Big Ten tournament and pretty shaky to close out. And then they come here and they're doing this. And Brandon Johns is filling in well. And man, this tournament's something else, man. This is just,
this is something else.
but it's so funny. At the end of the day, it's still relatively chalk. It's well,
Yeah,
we'll see. But it looks like it could be on a way of having 3-1 seeds and a 2 seed,
right.
which at least for me is what I predicted, except I had Alabama as the 2 seed and I had Illinois as the 1 seed. But
Right.
it could end up being there in this whole tournament of craziness. It could also be that you could have USC and UCLA in there instead. Who knows? So I don't want to speak too soon, but
Right.
at least getting Baylor Houston, that's a relatively chalky matchup, and it's good. I think it's gonna be a great one too. We'll talk about that in a different time.
Absolutely.
We can go deep dive and we'll tell you like stats and different players to impress other people and just schemes and I will just say no middle and ice ball screens, all that stuff. But so I think that kind of wraps up our whole discussion of this weekend so far. So yeah, any other thoughts?
Well, definitely stay tuned for tomorrow's game. We're taping this Monday night, so the two other Elite Eight games haven't been played yet, but
Yeah,
those will definitely be keeping an eye out on those two because they'll be good. They'll definitely be real good. So give you our thoughts in our next time we tape this and Final Four picks, of course. So
yeah, yeah. I guess so to do a hard pivot, I kind of want to talk about this. But the draft is coming up, and you're a Seahawks fan from Seattle.
yes,
I'm a Patriots fan. I started following sports in '07, so I'm a bandwagon fan since I was 7. And I could have jumped off last year, but I didn't.
good
Hopefully,
for
I
you.
won't jump. Hopefully, I won't jump off 20 years down the line if whatever stuff goes awry. Anyway, the reason I kind of want to bring this up is, of course, the trade. The series of trades that happened with San Francisco trading up to 3, and Miami at the end of the day getting to the 6th pick, and Philadelphia with the 12th pick now. And I'll just say this: as a Patriots fan, this was a gut punch. This is a gut punch, man. I guess I'll just go on a real rant real quick. So this whole free agency thing, spending so much money to fill these holes in, I think there's a part of it where it's that New England has so much cap space and no one else has this much cap space. So, New England is essentially having their pick of the litter and they're going to overspend for players because they're going to treat it somewhat similarly to like the draft because they have so much cap space and everybody is pretty much available to them. No one else has enough cap space to compete with them. They're just, they're just going to outbid. They're just going to get whoever they want, and they're going to outbid whoever. Which is the only reason. This is the only way this explains paying $13 million for Nelson per year for Nelson Aguilar. The only way that explains it is they really wanted Nelson Aguilar. The Raiders must have wanted like for 12 million, so they offered him 13 million. It has to be the only. Come on, Juju Smith-Schuster for 8 million, and then you come out here and Yeah,
I mean, you got
anyways.
Curtis Samuel for what was it, 11.5 or 12, something like that.
Yeah, I would have so much for sure. Anyways, point is, they are going on a spending spree and they're filling up everything. And that
Yeah,
this what this tells me is all they need left is a quarterback. And yes, they have Cam, but I thought going this crazy and wild in free agency meant they did not want to use the draft to fill their holes, which means they would package these picks to maybe trade for a quarterback. That's my thought process, right? If you
right.
try and fill in all your holes like this, you know, you get all these linebackers back. You get Matt Judon, Donta Hightower. You get Kyle Van Noy back. I can start listing names of everyone we got back and everyone we got in free agency. Point is, really fortified defense. Got offensive line help even with Tooney leaving. Andrews came back. We got what's the Trent Brown. We got there's another tackle, I'm pretty sure. But no, offensive line is there. The point is we pretty much have a solid. So the only question mark in my mind left is, well, one, I don't really like the receivers. I don't like Aguilar. I just don't like Aguilar. I just don't like Aguilar. But aside from I don't like Aguilar, it is the receivers in a way.
Right.
Because yes, Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry are amazing mismatches because they're tight ends that can essentially play receiver, and they can, the tight ends are the ultimate mismatch. You can't put a linebacker because they can, out scheme you, and you can't put a cornerback because they can, run over you. So maybe that was the logic. Also because we've been terrible at getting tight ends since Gronk.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. So with that, what point is, this means the hole that is there is quarterback, right? It's clear. And it was like they've never spent like this in free agency before, which means they had this excess draft capital that they don't necessarily need for right now. Wouldn't they just package that in for a trade? And well, with San Francisco doing this, it's a bummer because who are they going to? I guess they'll trade with Atlanta, but I don't know. The Bengals are going to stay there. They don't want to trade back if they like Penny Sewell that much to protect Joe Burrow, right? So this is a gut punch to me, which made me realize we're not getting Trey Lance. I know Patriots fans every year we're like, first round quarterback. It never happens. I guess we have to learn this year. I usually I don't believe that the Patriots would select a quarterback high, but this was the first time I actually thought like, oh, the Patriots are going to get a quarterback high.
Yeah.
I think with this we're probably going to get a cornerback, but that's my theory. But
we'll see real quick. I mean, you basically covered everything since our consummate Patriots fan. But I would say do watch out for the Falcons because they love Penei Sewell, of course, but they all are also, I think, at a little bit of a luxury at where they are at number 4. Atlanta has a huge contract with Matt Ryan left on his contract, so they're not going to move Matt Ryan at all. I know I heard some pundits suggesting that they might draft a quarterback. I just think that's kind of preposterous in some ways, but it could be done. But moving Matt Ryan's going to be it's going to be real difficult, and I think Arthur Smith's going to be good for him. So therefore, if you have Atlanta as a trade partner at number 4, and we'll talk about what San Francisco's, who they're looking for and what their options are, because Trey Lance could still be in play at number 4, which is really interesting. So what's
or Justin Fields, because
both great options. There you go.
What I've been hearing, which I think, we won't be the first to tell you. It's more of, at least for me, just regurgitating stuff that other pundits have been saying that they're looking for Mac Jones with this. Really?
That's what the news is telling me right now.
Yeah, that's what like Mac Jones, and then Daniel Jeremiah comes out, says, I'm telling you, the sources that you truly trust and that have given me always great intel are telling me this is for Mac Jones, and you're like, what? No, what? What? How? What? And
Okay. I guess we can maybe real quick. When you talk about Mac Jones, what's your thoughts on him? Just like, overall.
this baseline, typical Alabama quarterback pre Tua, and
Yes. Okay. Same here. Exactly. So if I had a comp, it'd be Adrian McCarron,
yep.
something like that. Adrian McCarron was amazing in college. That's because he also had amazing players around him at Alabama. He apparently has had a relatively successful career as a journeyman in NFL, but not as a starting quarterback for a
You
franchise.
don't draft the. You don't. Oh my god! What? Oh my god! What are they doing? So this is. We've talked about this, before. And my thing with I think Devontae Smith. People might be, oh, he's so skinny, so let's downgrade him, which is dumb, in my opinion. Because
Real dumb. That's dumb.
no offense to Mac Jones, that's the offensive line and Devontae Smith being amazing. Like,
Yeah,
I saw
he's a
this man.
Heisman
He was
winner.
accurate, but he was accurate because the amount of separation Devontae Smith was getting was insane. Like, he could be accurate because it's not like there's that much, you know, the windows aren't that tight. Um,
Exactly.
and
You
it felt like a lot of screen passes. It felt like I just don't see what people are seeing in Mac Jones. I just don't. Um,
yeah,
man,
two questions. I think when people like think of Mac Jones, I think some people would like to think he's the second coming of Joe Burrow, which I don't think so, but there are some people that think that. I think Joe Burrow is he's a very unique prospect, and like you can't really like have his story like replicated on like anyone else. Even if like Mac Jones, he just started a few games last season, and then this past season he had like his first like full season, as like QB of Alabama. Um, it's just I just don't think he's going to be Joe Burrow. And secondly, yeah, go ahead, Yeah.
he's just not as athletic. That's the
No,
thing.
no, not
He's
even
not
close.
mobile.
Not
He's
even
not
close.
mobile. So I've heard comps. There's like comps to him that, I mean, not saying he's going to turn out this way, but he has similar, what is characteristics to Matt Ryan. It's just comps. It's not saying he's going to be as good or what.
Right. But Matt Ryan has a good arm. He has a pretty good arm, I'd say.
I think people believe Matt Jones might have a decent arm, a decent enough arm. This might just be the fact that he's just a generic white guy quarterback that is able to play with good talent.
Right.
But yeah, no, I hope that San Francisco, because I somewhat root for San Francisco as well. Of course, you see all these diehard Patriots fans. Saw background last time. I'm changing it because the visual quality was pretty rough. But my parents are huge 49ers fans. My mom grew up as a Niners fans during, Montana heyday, and Jerry Rice is her favorite player. And, my dad, came to this country, and first thing he listened to on the radio was, you know, the 49ers just doing really well, and all that. So I have a place for the Niners in my heart as well. And that, with that in mind, please don't get Mac Jones. Please, 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 please. Like Justin. Here's another thing. Justin Fields, this punditry talk or whatnot. This guy is.
Being overlooked.
I should throw this lightly. I should. in the football sense,
Yes.
is very much being treated like a Deshaun Watson from from a football sense. This is becoming much like Deshaun Watson, where it's, oh well, he's at Clemson, oh he's good, but he has some, he has some developmental, issue, whatever. He's not necessarily pro ready right now. And
Wow.
there's a tinge of racism, I feel like, involved in this thing of like Justin Fields not really there yet. Like, are you kidding me, man? Are you kidding me, guys?
I just think it's almost dumb to overlook Justin Fields.
He's getting overlooked so much.
He's so overlooked. And if you guys like watch the national semifinal game against Clemson, that's all you need to see. The man has he has everything you need in a quarterback. He has heart. He has grit. He's tough. He knows how to play football. He's mobile. He can throw it well. I mean, what else are you asking for? And why?
And it's not like he doesn't have slow. I think what I've heard is that the offense in Ohio State, has like slow developing routes. So his reading his options, he's not like as quick to read. It might seem that he's not as quick to read his options,
Sure.
or to go through his progressions. Like he just sticks on a progression or whatnot. But I've also heard that's just because that's what the Ohio State offense dictates. And I think if this guy is able to be this like very accurate with, that, just watch that game. Just watch that game. How accurate he was with this
Jeez.
dude against Clemson. It's not even. It was against Clemson. So
Against yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just the fact that like it's kind of assured that like Zach Wilson is going to be second, and if Mac Jones is third, I swear.
Mac Jones. Wow.
I wouldn't even mind Trey Lance being third, but
Just developing, yeah. Would you say I this is not, I don't think this is very close, but would you say there are any kind of comparisons when Baker Mayfield was selected number 1 overall that year in draft, because you had Sam Darnold and Josh Allen in that same draft, which were by experts predictions much higher rated. Turns out that Baker Mayfield, was the second best quarterback in that draft. We haven't seen what Sam Darnold's done because he's had a non-existent team, let's just be honest, in New York. But no, I mean, like, what do you think? I think Mac Jones is, I don't think he's as talented as Baker Mayfield. I'm going to say that too.
no,
But
I think it's more Mac Jones and Josh Rosen.
yeah, okay, yeah, I think so too. That's
maybe that's the comp we should be looking at, man. Like, I'm also like Baker's the third. I mean, it's Lamar and Josh.
Lamar. Yes, my bad. Yes.
Yeah, no,
yes.
it's always because we think of the top, we forget Lamar was 32nd.
My bad. Lamar actually, yeah, Lamar landed in a great situation in Baltimore. So yeah, that's good. Yeah.
But I also think, anyways, that's a different thing. But so where we were talking about? Yeah. So Trey Lance, and what's his face? Justin Fields
Yes.
might still be available. Would the Patriots trade up? Probably not, compared to the fact that maybe the Broncos and the Panthers are right there and they could just trade up. They would give up less capital
Right.
And then it would also be better for the team trading down because they can get a higher pick. They can get 8th or 9th compared to 15.
True. I think
so.
If there was a team that would, like, the ones that you mentioned, I think the Panthers have been very much a team that people have said that are going to be aggressive because as they said, Tepper's a very aggressive owner, and he'll open his wallet and he'll okay a lot of these aggressive deals to make the Panthers better in the short term. So they want to get good quick. And so I think that's a team that you'll definitely watch out for to kind of like go up and draft and try to get a quarterback, someone like a Trey Lance or someone. like a Justin Fields if he's available.
I think I like Justin Fields more in Carolina than Trey Lance. I
like
just think
Justin Fields more, period. But yeah.
no, I do too. I think, I mean, again, I'm not like any draft guru or anything. Whatever I'm saying is just stuff I've read from other places. If I would recommend you guys like Brett Coleman. He's amazing YouTuber. He just breaks down on draft prospects, but also just X's and O's of football schemes, similar to Hoop Vision 68 for college basketball. But this guy is football. And no, but it's also just other, other places we've been reading on and draft guides and all that. That like,
Right.
well, Trey Lance is supposed to be the Josh Allen, and Justin Fields is supposed to be like Dak Prescott, and in a way, I could see that, right? Justin Fields is like Zach Prescott, but like more athletic.
Right.
He ran what? Didn't he run like a 4.4 40-yard dash?
Something like that. I think it was something like that. Yeah.
My goodness, man. This guy wrote wake up, sheeple. Stop.
Let's reiterate here. If Justin Fields was in any other draft, he would be the number 1 overall pick.
I don't know. I don't think so, because look at the fact that Zach Wilson is like kind of cemented as it too.
Okay, so we can talk about Zach Wilson too. I think Zach Wilson, in some ways, is a little bit overhyped. I think he's had like great metrics and great pro day. That's what I've heard. Shows off his huge arm apparently. So I am not discrediting anything for Zach Wilson, but he's played one season at BYU. He had a pretty good season, sure, but one season in BYU against you have your choice of Justin Fields playing at Ohio State, Big Ten opponents, national championship game. I mean, just like the quality of like what he's played, how long he's played at quarterback in college. I think it all matters for me, but apparently to NFL teams it doesn't as much. So
I think these Trey Lances and Zach Wilsons need to like give respects to Josh Allen and Mahomes, because if it wasn't for them, like Justin Fields would be taken above them, right? I mean,
no doubt.
It's the fact that like project quarterbacks are actually Herbert, even the project quarterbacks are the good ones now. It's not the pro ready people.
Right.
I mean, you could go back 2005. Aaron Rodgers was the project and Alex Smith was the pro ready. Well, that's actually because Alex Smith was also fairly athletic and ran pretty fast, but that's a different thing altogether.
Right.
But I think, it's just a Josh Allen. Everyone seeing Josh Allen, and now it's like, let's just do projects, man. Let's just do it. Projects. We can do this.
Good luck.
I think that's a fair. The thing is, before this Josh Allen development, I thought Josh Allen. I didn't like Josh. I like Josh Allen the least in that 2018, right? 2018 class of quarterbacks coming out. Just because, again, I'm not into these super toolsy, not accurate. We can mold these people type quarterbacks, but clearly, it's worked. I mean, Mahomes was a similar thing, if we're being honest.
Keep in mind, though. Yeah, I was just gonna say this real quick, though. I mean, these two definitely like great examples, but the coaching staff around these two, Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid for Mahomes, and then you have Brian Dable and Sean McDermott for Josh Allen. You cannot overlook that. And you're thinking right now, Zach Wilson to the New York Jets. I mean, Robert Saleh, I hope he's going to be a good coach and, that he can stay with the Jets. But first of all, he's a defensive-minded coach. And second of all, the Jets are just, they're the Jets. So, I mean, like, good luck.
They do have this, I think it's LaFleur's brother. I'll look up. They have, They have their offensive coordinator that they brought into
The Jets. Okay.
yeah, he's basically a disciple of these, run first, Shanahanian type, McVayan, LaFleurian, all that, that
Okay.
whole
Gotcha.
scheme of new offenses that have popped up. So I guess they're thinking, well, this is like our guy, and also Herbert with Anthony Lynn told me
True.
that was a good coaching staff.
Who was the Chargers OC?
I'm not sure actually, to be honest. He probably was a good OC.
I'm pretty sure
Actually,
he was good. I think no, it wasn't him. I thought it was him that was interviewing for head coaching jobs as well. But I mean, again, they're landing in good situations as well. I'm Josh Allen.
wait, are you kidding me? Anthony Lynn's an offensive-minded coach. Wait a sec.
Is he a former like running back or something like that?
He's former running back. He was offensive coordinator. Wait a sec. Who is he?
Yeah, and then to continue, in terms of just like Josh Allen's development, of course, he made this huge leap this year, but that's after they really surrounded him with some good talent, getting Stephon Diggs, who played out of his mind as well, and just really helping out Josh Allen to be like a great quarterback. Years past, like when you didn't have as much of a like a great situation in Buffalo, Josh Allen, though he was ascending, he wasn't like the quarterback that you'd be like, hey, that's our guy for next like 20 years. It's just like we're still like, it's promising but so encouraging. We're still evaluating him on that basis. It's those quarterbacks that land in like good situations that also matters a lot. So I'm just saying right now that project quarterbacks, they're worth the risk, I guess, but they can also crash and burn pretty hard. And one name we've talked about is Mitch Trubisky, which I like to bring up with Zach Wilson. But hey, I'm wishing all the best with Zach. So
yeah, that's the thing. It's just that the comp is completely different with Zach Wilson. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's like they're not similar players. But you do have a good point. I didn't really think about this. These project quarterbacks they either fell or like were teams traded up to get them. So they weren't actually like the Chiefs, for example. They weren't the 10th worst team in the NFL.
No, not even close.
They traded up.
Yeah.
Similar with the Bills. I think they traded up, if I'm not mistaken, because that was the year they made the playoffs.
Yeah, I believe
and they actually drafted a quarterback that year, which was weird.
They had Tyrod Taylor there too.
Yeah, they made the playoffs that year as a 6 seed, and then they drafted a quarterback. So they traded up. See, they were a good team already. I think that's a good point to make, is that these teams were already good when they – and Aaron Rodgers, let's say he was a project that's coming out. That was like 24th. So, or 26, anyways.
Wait, and he got 2 years behind Brett Favre. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Yeah.
You don't get your luxury in as the Jets quarterback to have 2 years on the bench. That's not going to happen. The Jets are going to be like, we're going to have you play pretty soon. So, yeah,
I don't know. People, Justin Fields, just Justin. This is another reason why I'm wondering, why are the Niners trading up for Mac Jones? Like, it would be like at least Trey Lance, or like somebody, like if you have like Jimmy Garoppolo on like a pretty lucrative contract, similar but not as egregious as the Atlanta situation. It just, I don't know. Mac Jones just seems like a weird.
Yeah, and not to discredit Daniel Jeremiah. I know he's great, and I don't think teams do this very often, but there is a chance I could bring that out, that San Francisco is just trying to throw other teams off the scent, and that they're just putting Mac Jones out there as a name, but they're really looking at someone else. That might be a possibility.
What are they doing that just to see the world burn, or did they just like chaos? Did they just Do they just want the Panthers like trading the farm so because they think they can get Justin Fields?
They lose chaos. I mean, what's so bad about that for them? They have nothing to lose there. So,
Well, I guess, but one team. Well, I guess they don't win it.
you never know. You never know.
But I feel like teams like the Panthers and the Broncos, they won't trade pre-draft. I feel like they'll trade during the draft because they will want to see who's going to be picked third.
True, that's fair.
So we studied a lot about quarterbacks and drafts and draft picks with quarterbacks. So as a Seahawks fan,
Yes.
What's going on? What's going on with? I mean, clearly they're not going to trade. They're not going to trade Russell Wilson because got offered a lot of draft picks, but.
Right. Well, and the big thing is that if they do trade Russ before June, I think June 30th, I think that's the date, Seahawks get hit with a dead cap of upwards of 31 million or something like that. So it doesn't make any sense to trade Russ before that date. And
it also just doesn't make sense to trade him, period.
Exactly. That's what I want to hear. Thank you. It doesn't. Like they said, you only get like 250 cents for a dollar, and like you never get a fair deal back when you trade away a star player like Russell Wilson. So,
oh my gosh, I don't know what.
I mean, the Bears did offer the farm.
They did, but what's the farm like? What are you gonna do with the farm? Like
exactly.
You gotta start planting. You know, you gotta start with your soil. You gotta start watering. Like that takes so much time. Like why rebuild? Why rebuild when you have Russell Wilson in his prime and you're a good team?
No reason.
Like relatively good team. Why rebuild now? This ain't like the Lions. See, with the Lions, of course that makes sense with the Lions. Well, also not Russell, but Matt Stafford wanted out of there. So like that makes sense because you actually are like, well, our plants are dying. We got to get a new farm. You have a prospering farm.
Yeah,
you're gonna trade your farmer to get this set of land that is like this isn't gonna grow. It's gonna take forever. You got to find a new farmer. How long it takes to get a good farmer?
I trust the Seahawks front office. I know they'll do the process right. They won't trade Russ. They'll make him happy. They'll see how this season goes. I think Russ will be fine. They've been addressing a lot of things that that the Russ has been like kind of like complaining about, and they've shored up the offensive line, kept Chris Carson for a few years. Well, let's hope he stays healthy. The man, he's great when he's healthy, but that's a big if. Like he gets injured a lot too. So, I mean, again, the Seahawks play in a very tough division, but they make the playoffs every year. So it's just, I understand, you have to make your situation the best to have a championship, like a chance at a championship. But I don't see why Russ should leave as a Seahawks fan.
Well, I understand why, because I think Russell Wilson is looking at Mahomes and Brady and thinks I could be that. And then he looks at his situation and he looks at Aaron Rodgers. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think he sees that he's stuck in an Aaron Rodgers type situation where am I only going to win one Super Bowl? And that's not even when I'm in my prime. It's like when I'm just starting out, like I win a Super Bowl right. And like now my prime's going to be wasted. And like, I think he just sees Aaron Rodgers like, I don't want that to happen to me. I want what's happening to Brady and Mahomes and getting all these weapons that's what I need. And that's what I deserve.
But
that's what he's looking at.
Think about his 3 trade destinations when he had Chicago. That team, I don't think that was going to go like as far. I don't think it's going to go as far as the Seahawks, even if you put Russ on there right now. The Raiders, I don't think he would have gone as far either. To be honest,
I'll say this. Yes, I think so. I think with the Bears, they would have gone far. With the quarter, and if they just get a good quarterback, they can go far. I think.
I think the Bears. It's very tough to say. But
well, actually, pause. With the roster, yes. With the coaching, no. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
With the coaching, hell no. Man, that is yeah. Not a fan of
Not bad.
Matt Nagy and Bill
Ryan
Lazor
Pace.
and all.
Yeah.
They're just not good. Not good offenses, man. Not good.
I think like if you slide in Russ for what Drew Brees was in New Orleans, of course that's great. But the Saints are way over the cap, so they have to like really like cut down on their salary cap problem. So that's gonna not help either. I just feel like again the Seahawks, of course, they're in that kind of like Green Bay kind of quandary where they're good, but they're not good enough to get to that championship level. But there is also like steps that you can take to get there. I think, as you've seen, like if Green Bay wasn't so boneheaded and drafted Jordan Love in their draft last year, they could have made like drafted a real impact player and like helped them, reach the Super Bowl. I mean, what else could you ask for if you reach the Super Bowl on a team? Like that's like as much as you can ask for. So
And I mean, Green Bay wasn't a disappointment last year, but you know what it is? They changed their coach
they did.
and they got better.
Hey,
Hint.
Seattle,
Just saying.
Seattle absolutely will part ways with their coach before they part ways with Wilson. I hope that's the case.
Dude, like it's a similar like Pete Carroll's better than Mike McCarthy. I should preface with that.
He is, yes.
But it's a similar type. Well, except Mike McCarthy like straight up missed playoffs at times. But I mean, like if it's stagnating, if you just change it up. I mean, look at look at Rodgers getting the second wind in a sense. I mean, he's always had this, but as far as like success, record wise, not stats wise, or even stats wise, right? He's getting a second win with this new coaching staff. Maybe that's what Wilson needs. And I mean, I shouldn't say that Green Bay the past 2 years haven't been really a disappointment. It's just bad luck. Like the Niners were just the better team. And then, this year they should have won it. They should have won it this year. That's a different thing. All right. Well, I part of me wants to take back what I said about Matt LaFleur being so good now because I remember what a terrible decision. It's so off topic, but yeah, I think Russell Wilson might just he sees the fact that he's just taking these teams to the playoffs and they don't get to the conference championship every year like it seemed Aaron Rodgers was doing for a stretch, but I think he sees it's like it's a similar situation, at least from an outside perspective. It's a similar situation right now with Russell Wilson. It feels like it's the trajectory of Aaron Rodgers rather than the trajectory of Tom Brady, which is, I mean, he knows he's great, and we know he's great. And
definitely.
I mean, as a football fan, I just want that I just want him to just ball out and be a I mean, he is a Hall of Famer, right? We can say that. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. Yes.
Well, is he first ballot?
Well, I mean, I'd be biased to say, but yes.
I think he is too, but I want to live in a world where it's not even a doubt.
That's right.
That should be the goal.
Hopefully, so I think if he wins another Super Bowl, it should be without doubt, and hopefully that happens in Seattle. So,
we'll see, man. That division's getting loaded.
That's getting loaded. It is. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. It's very loaded.
So yeah. So this was, I guess, our NFL draft talk with no real clear sense of direction, other than start out with the Patriots and then just talk about the quarterbacks. I will say this. So as far as what I think the Patriots will do, I've seen it projected that they're gonna they might pick some linebackers. So we'll see how it goes. I would just prefer it if they maybe drafted on the offense rather than defense. Their defense is already stacked. And the thing is, although Belichick says that he wants to run it back, build this like 2001, and you kind of see that with the free agency moves, like trying to build it, run it back to 2001. The dynasties like that, I don't think really work anymore because offenses have become so good. No matter how I'm biased, but I think it's objective. We could say Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, or at least top 2 or top 3. He's one of the greatest defensive coaches of all time for sure too. Like defensive minds, game planning, all of that jazz. And I can go nerd out about. Even with that being said, and even if you get all the defensive talent in the world, there's just something about offenses now will just are able to beat any defense. The best offenses are just going to be able to beat the best defenses. It just is how it is.
I think, real quick, I will say also, since 2001, there has been rule changes, and recently rule changes have been benefiting the offense so much more than the defense. So times have changed, and it's more of an offensive sport now, for sure.
Exactly. It's much more. It's an offensive sport, and good defenses now are defenses that can either pick on a weakness or make impact plays.
Right.
So the Bucs defense this past thing, for example, their weaknesses is that it felt like every team they were going up against had a weak offensive line.
That's fair.
And they were able to attack that. Well, I guess the football team didn't, but that's just the football team not having a lot of talent on offense.
Right.
The Saints, their offensive line is good as well, but I think maybe Breeze was seeing ghosts. Who knows? That was rough.
Green Bay, that offensive line.
Green Bay offensive line bad. Chiefs offensive line. Mike Remmers, Super Bowl MVP, right?
There you go. Revolving door. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. So Mike Remmers, poor guy. He's a Super Bowl MVP. Like, for all intents and purposes, he is.
He is.
You gave it to Brady because fine, he had those 3 touchdowns, but it was the defense. Let's be honest. It was like also. You could also give the MVP to the Chiefs receivers for dropping some of the most incredible throws of all time. My gosh, I feel so bad. My Holmes was like well to the. Anyways, people, you all know this. What I was gonna say. So, dynasties aren't really built on defenses anymore, though. It's built on offenses. Like defenses are so variable from year to year. Case in point, 2000. Well, I'm trying to get my years right. So I guess last NFL season would be 2020. So 2019, the 2019 football, like NFL. Patriots had, if not number 1, number 2 defense in the league. Right, it helped that they were playing weak. They were playing weak quarterbacks. When they were playing good quarterbacks, it was kind of porous. But even against mediocre quarterbacks, Dak Prescott ain't a bad quarterback. At the time, the Eagles' offense wasn't that bad. They locked them down, right? They had one of the best defenses in the league. And Stephon Gilmore was a defense player of the year.
Right.
They literally 1 year after you lose Patrick Chung and Donta Hightower. I feel like Patriots fans might like overstate, like, oh, we had so many COVID opt-outs. Yeah, but we had 3 major ones. Like it wasn't. It's not like our whole team left us. Like, come on, let's be frank here. A year later.
Yeah,
they were 32nd DVOA defense in defense.
Oh my God! Yeah.
For maybe they didn't end there, but near the end they were getting to 32nd. They were at 32nd at least. I think in the second half portions of it. So defenses aren't consistent that much. Like look, Jacksonville, Saxonville wasn't really consistent. The New York Giants, 2016. That was the Dak Prescott 14-2 rookie year. The Giants had an amazing defense. They were the only team to beat the Cowboys. The next year, poorest defense with the same players.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, sure, you can. I mean, I trust Belichick and all of that. I just think in recent NFL, that we're in, defenses can't build dynasties the same way that offenses can. They can be a good backbone, but
Absolutely.
they can't be the best thing.
Yeah.
Like the Legion of Boom is the last you're gonna get. Like even No Fly Zone was
they broke down.
It broke down after 1 year. So
yeah.
It's just Legion of Boom is the last we're gonna. I think. I mean, there might be, it's cyclical. Maybe 10 years or 5 years from now, we're gonna get,
amazing.
It'll come back. But right now, post 2015, I don't think we're gonna be able to build consistent. There's like defenses like this.
Hey, yeah. I mean that's how the NFL caters to its audience now. More of an offensive kind of.
I just think we have a lot of linebackers, and I mean, sure. I mean, our front seven is solid right now. If we get another linebacker, oh my God, look, that's going to be insane, and it might fill a weakness, a tiny weakness on that linebacking and all that.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I get maybe, and now I'm thinking about it. Who would we get on offense? I mean, whoever the receivers the Patriots wanted to get, they already got. Right. They paid an arm and a leg for some of these receivers, so that clearly tells me like
they did.
Those receivers they thought were amazing. Tight end's good. They already drafted some offensive linemen past years, and it's a solid core.
Yeah.
I mean, Damian Harris is shaping the form. So the only person on offense, I guess I'm saying, is Cam Newton. Needs to get changed. I think I'm just saying quarterback. But I guess you can't draft a quarterback with 15 at this point. So, this whole rant I kind of did on not building on defense kind of goes moot when you realize, but like they kind of got themselves filled up on offense, or at least what they believe. So,
yeah. And
there's no quarterbacks available. So I guess they do just have to go on defense.
If in the off chance Mac Jones drops to 15, would you as a fan like the Patriots to draft him?
No. Everyone who's saying Mac Jones is like Brady is just basically saying they're unathletic white guys that play quarterback. I'm sorry. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, he's no Brady. He's definitely no Brady. That's impossible.
No, but Mel Kiper said,
Did you actually say that? Come on.
At the beginning, at the very beginning of this whole process.
That's too much.
But you know what I'd be happy with? Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna get a Mac Jones, get a Mac Jones, but like with value. Is it? I mean, I'm quite naive. Is it weird that I just think Mac Jones and Kyle Trask are like the same, except
I think Kyle Trask might be a little bit more athletic, maybe, as a player.
Is he just not as accurate? But like he was amazing in Florida. Is it so? All right, here's the thing. Are people discounting Kyle Trask because of Kyle Pitts? In that case, discount Mac Jones because of Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith.
Like if people are like, oh well, Kyle Trask, it was just all Kyle. It was just all Kyle Pitts. I just realized they were both Kyle. It is Kyle Pitts, right? His first name is Kyle, right?
It is Kyle Pitts. Yeah. It's one of those things. I feel like the media does this thing like once one source starts to like hype up a player, all the other ones join in, like start conversation. So Mac Jones is at the level that they've hyped up him up a hill basically. And Kyle Trask is just that like no one's really like spoken and like highlighted him yet. It's not that he doesn't have value. It's just that like the media, as the general public consume, haven't heard about Kyle Trask as much yet. So, in real time prospects, I think Kyle Trask might be a better quarterback than Mac Jones. But
see, like I actually think that might be what's gonna happen is that the Patriots draft like similar to Jimmy G. They draft in the second round. They're gonna draft a second round quarterback. That might be Kyle Trask. I've seen Kyle Trask has just big board alone. I mean, of course, big board quarterbacks go higher than their consensus big board. That's how it works. But Kyle Trask is supposed to be the 65th best, according to I think Tankathon. 65th best prospect.
Okay.
But I don't know. What I'm saying is, don't give me Mac Jones. Just wait. Wait, man. If some team really wants Mac Jones at 15, then trade down. That's actually my thing. Then
That's
trade
good.
down.
Yeah. Yep.
But I feel like I hope the Niners don't get Mac Jones. Oh my gosh.
That's tough.
I don't know. I'd have to double think Kyle. Shanahan. I mean, there's a theory. There's a theory going around that Kyle Shanahan just wants a guy he could just like play joystick with at quarterback. It's like, again, it's not my take. It's like from the Ringer and from The Athletic. But
why is Trey Lance not that guy? That's the question.
I think they just see Mac Jones is able to fit in a system and do what the system tells him to do.
Okay.
Like he did really well in an Alabama system, and he executed. I'll admit this: he executed it very, very well.
He did. Yes.
It was amazing, right? And I think it's that sense of if the comp is supposed to be like Matt Ryan, right?
Yeah.
What's his face? Just Kyle Shanahan. I just realized how many Kyles I've said so far. Man. Kyle Shanahan. What's it called? Man, why am I blanking? God, it's getting late. So Kyle Shanahan. Oh, he's worked with quarterbacks such as Kirk Cousins and Matt Ryan and all of that. So It's like, well, we want a Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan type. Enter Mac Jones, but you don't trade up. I mean, I guess if you were at 12, you would, but you don't trade up to 3 to get Mac Jones. I feel like, even if he is that, and then the thing that I have against this is, why can't that offense just work with just really athletic players? Like, yeah. I'm assuming this Kyle Shanahan offense, similar to his dad's Mike Shanahan's offense, which had John Elway. He's also had RG3. Right. So if people are saying this because, they believe that Mac Jones is very similar to Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins, then that's a weird argument to make because RG3 was amazing in that system. You wouldn't draft a guy who is basically like, you already have Jimmy Garoppolo. Why would you trade up to draft Jimmy Garoppolo again?
Doesn't make sense to me. I just think it's a smokescreen. But I mean, like, the only argument I could possibly think of is that maybe the 49ers think that their window's wide open right now and they don't want to try to develop someone like Trey Lance, and they just want to win now. Like, Mac Jones is like, I guess he's the refined type, you know what I mean? So it'd be like, we have the window open right now. We want to, try to get as much wins as we can right now instead of trying to nurture and try to like make Trey Lance into like an NFL ready quarterback, I guess. So that might be something that's possible, but again, I don't think that's a very smart way to say it. You could just stick with Jimmy G then in that
Then
case.
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. I mean anybody, just not Mac Jones. So.
Then why not Justin Fields? I just don't. I'm just when I looked at Alabama again. I ain't no draft scout or whatever, and I feel like I've already said this, but when I watched Alabama play, it just felt like it was just unfair because Alabama essentially had the college all-stars on their team.
Yeah.
They have how many? So they have Barrymore, the defensive lineman. They have Najee Harris, Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Dickerson. They have 6 first-round picks, right?
Yeah.
I'm counting. There might be 7th that I'm not. Like, you have a team that's already that has 6 first-round picks. And beyond that, there's like second, third round picks that this team has. It's like college all-stars because they've capitalized on the recruiting market. They just cornered the best players at each position, damn near. And this is what you're gonna get. Like it helps that Mac Jones was able to be surrounded by college all-stars, And Daniel Jeremiah kind of pointed this out on why he's like, why would they do this? Even though this is what he's hearing is Mac Jones. Yes, Alabama's offense was great and all over, but they played against Vanderbilt. They played against teams like Vanderbilt. They played against teams like, Ole Miss or Mississippi State.
Right.
They're going to end up, they're not going to play some guys from Vanderbilt. They're going to play like solid caliber defensive players.
Exactly. Huh.
So anyways, I think we should it was getting quite late again. It's 3 a.m. here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So yeah, hope you all enjoyed. This was more of a free form type thing today because other than college basketball, not a lot to talk about. So yeah.
Yeah. Please leave us any kind of feedback you'd like just to help us improve. Of course, we're always happy to listen to what you have to say, and hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back very soon. Yeah. All right.
Adios.
You too. Bye.